Welcome everybody to the, good morning and welcome to our first meeting of 2019. So with that, Brent, can you take a roll call?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Sereno, attending from a remote location in Santa Cruz.
Here.
Dettel, attending from a remote location in Santa Cruz.
Here.
Videz. Goldstein is absent. Bauman.
Present.
Uslar.
Yep.
Long.
Yes.
Nolasco.
Present.
Hill.
Present.
Vice Chair Corpus.
Present.
And Chair Mendez.
Present.
And just a reminder, please, when you're speaking, to turn on your mics. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now if you can join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Long, could you lead us, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, comments from public on the matters not on the agenda. The public may provide comments on any item within the board's jurisdiction, but not on the agenda. The board may not take action at this meeting on any item not listed on the agenda other than to refer the matter to staff or set it for a future meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. The public may comment on open session items during this agenda item and closed session items prior to the board's recess to closed session. Any public comment? Great. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. My name is John Smigelski. I'm with the Slow Climate Coalition Task Force. We're a group of 7 task force members that has origin about 10 years ago. We wanted to bring community choice energy to San Luis Obispo. And we have meetings about probably about 25 active members, and we're excited about being members with Monterey Community Power and look forward to implementation and expansion in our area. Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome. Anybody else? Okay, bringing it back to the agenda, corrections and additions. Any correction or additions?
No, they're not.
Great. Moving on to presentations. Receive an update on MBCP enrollment and customer rebates. Staff?
JR is making the presentation.
Great.
Great, good morning. J.R. Killigrew, Director of Communications and Energy Programs. Could I go to the next slide? Oh, great. Before I start, I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everybody. I know there's kind of a whirlwind of information going around. We've got a lot of great news, not so great news, but I think at the end of the day, it's a great way to start off our meetings with some enrollment and rebate dollars, because I know a lot of folks have been wondering about, well, what's the true value of Monterey Bay Community Power outside of the choice and the control or whatnot, but what are the cold hard facts, and we're here to deliver that today. I also want to give a shout out to Bob Hill for being here. It's great to have Morro Bay and the San Luis Obispo team on board, and we look forward to collaborating on a very successful inclusion in 2020. Just to kind of give a quick snapshot in terms of enrollment up to date, we've so far enrolled about 268,000 customers. We've got about 10,000 more solar and net energy metering customers that are being enrolled in January and April. So that'll give us about 277,000 customers in total at the end of April or so. We're standing strong at about 97.5 account enrollment. Pretty phenomenal. And then when you look at the amount of electricity sales in terms of we've only lost about 4% of the demand that we enrolled. So we're at 96% strong, which is phenomenal metric in terms of comparing to other CCAs. Now, this is a busy slide, but we finally got metrics and stats about each one of your communities' enrollments. I've kind of highlighted it by the different counties, but overall, as you can see on the green bar, it's 97.5%. And we're definitely going to be emailing out individual communities to let you know about your enrollment overall. But there are a lot of strong metrics going across the region in terms of communities in San Benito, Santa Cruz, and Monterey County. So I know it's a busy slide, but it's just really phenomenal to see this level of enrollment across our Tri-County region. Rebate engagement. I know folks have been excited. What's going on with the rebate? Is it coming out? We did a huge splash based on feedback from our community members and our boards. We did a slew of print ads in the dailies and weeklies, had a great press release, as well as kind of launching on Facebook Twitter and Instagram to make sure that all folks could hear about the rebate going out. So we really had a concerted effort to get the word out and make sure people know that the rebates were landing on their bill. So in terms of a breakdown by customer segment, overall we delivered $4.4 million in rebates in 1 year, from March to December. The big winners, the commercial sector. If you think about the amount of load they're consuming, therefore they're going to have more rebates. The business community received $2.7 million of that 4.4. Residential sector got about $800,000, as well as the agricultural. The asterisks around the residential sector is only about 5 months worth of rebates. So when you look out for the next 12 months, we could see 125% rebate. So residential customers could be seeing about 1.5 to 2 million, depending upon the amount they consume. So we're estimating, again, when I say estimate, don't hold me to it, but somewhere between $6 to $7 million of rebates this year. But then there are issues around the PCI and other things that are not up to our control. But when you start looking at collecting that information, so from March of 2018 all the way through December of 2019, we're looking at a lot of money being reinvested in customer pocketbooks. Oh, there it is. We also have rebates by community now. So each one of your individual community will be able to communicate to you the amount of dollars that were put back in your customer pocketbooks. The big winner was unincorporated Monterey County, which I think got about $1.3 million reinvested. So it's kind of nice to see all the hearty debate that went into joining this agency. Monterey County ended up becoming the big winner. So we like to see that. We ended up summing this all out by counties as well, so including incorporated as well as unincorporated. Monterey County did see the biggest increase and biggest portion, but as well as Santa Cruz and San Benito. So overall, these are the type of figures we're going to share out with each one of your jurisdictions to make sure that we kind of all cohesively work together towards these metrics and be able to communicate them. So it's really a big win overall. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or thoughts or suggestions.
Any questions or comments, staff? Great. Any member of the public wishing to address the board on this? Great. Well, thank you. That's clearly great news, and those are real dollars. So great job to staff and all the hard work that's gone into this. Moving along to our consent agenda items. Are there any members of the board members who wish to pull any item? Okay. Any member of the public wishing to address the board on the consent agenda? Did I skip one?
Chair Mendez, I'll need to recuse from the approval of the minutes of the 14th as our organization was not yet a member at that particular time, nor was I in attendance.
Okay, great. Okay, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
So approved.
Second. Chair Mendez, Mark Dettel. I also was not in attendance of the two meetings. Martine Bernal was in attendance.
Same for Melody, but I think we've had this issue before where we were allowed to vote on the minutes because we're being substitutes for the people who were here.
That's correct. I'm having staff nodding, so that's correct. Great.
Great.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Great. Got that? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, Community Advisory Council's report. Member Seth Capron.
Hi, Seth Capron. Jeff Byron, the chair of the Community Advisory Council, couldn't be here today. He asked me to give a report out to you guys of our meeting back in November. We had a presentation from Energy Solutions. They're a consultant for the Monterey Bay Air Resource Board. And the Resource Board has hired them to provide services to all the jurisdictions in the county to update your building codes to encourage or require infrastructure for future EV chargers. And they gave a great presentation. I know some of you know about this already because your jurisdictions have already passed new ordinances. This is a great opportunity for Monterey Bay Community Power to do some advocacy at not a lot of cost that could have a real effect. The basic thrust of the presentation he gave is that the cost of retrofitting this infrastructure in at a later date is dramatically higher than installing it during the new construction process. And if we meet the state's EV goals by 2050, basically all these buildings that are getting built now, all the single-family homes, all the new multifamily projects are going to need to have EV chargers in virtually all the garages and the parking lots. So I encourage you to take advantage of these services if you haven't already done so. It's a pretty great opportunity where Energy Solutions will essentially provide soup to nuts staff for everything you need to do. They'll write the staff report, they'll write the ordinances, they'll work with your staff and electeds to write an ordinance that fits your needs, although we are trying to get standardized ordinances that make it easier for the building industry. We also had a report out on the programs that are being developed by staff. Staff is moving forward with the EV incentive program and implementation of that. It's being fine-tuned based on the input they've received from some of the other CCEs in the state. And that's moving forward to implementation now. And staff is also working on the possibility of providing subsidy and to encourage EV adoption on low-income homes on affordable housing projects and also multifamily homes. And we also had a very detailed report from the outreach and communication staff on all of the hard work they've been doing the last year in community engagement, sponsorship and advertising, online community, and the branding they've been doing throughout the community. And they also shared how they're going to use the lessons learned over the last year to improve their program next year. So we look forward to bringing some new programs to you. We've got some comprehensive look at programs coming up on our next agenda later this week.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments on the board? Any member of the public wishing to address the board on this item?
Yeah, Robert Frischmuth, Communities for Sustainable Monterey County. And our organization is seeing the presentation, the same one about the charging station infrastructure. It's a great idea. It's easy when you're doing a parking lot to put the plastic conduits in there and the cement, even and for later installing of the charging stations, whereas to rip up the concrete and install it later is a lot more expensive. So we've been talking to our city councils. There's 3 minutes in any city council meeting. You got 3 minutes, and so you can go up and make a pitch for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Great, hearing none. Moving along, if there's no further discussion. Policy board report. I think our vice chair, Steve McShane, is here to give the update. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Mendez, members of the Operations Board. Good to be here. Lots of great things to report. Our December meeting went very smooth. We certainly adopted the CAC's bylaws. We had a discussion about the rate schedule for the coming calendar year in anticipation of action taken before the PUC on PG&E rates. We gave our executive, we gave Tom the authority to go ahead and make adjustments in anticipation when those happen, when they occur. We also ratified our CEO's bonus for 2018. And, proud to say we really acknowledge staff as well and their work in the launch. There was a one-time time off given between Christmas and New Year's, and I know everybody enjoyed that. Very thrilled to have Morro Bay and San Luis Obispo approved to join Monterey Bay Community Power. We hope that that can only represent further growth in the future. And then we also went ahead and approved the addendum number 1 for Monterey Bay Community Power Community Choice Aggregation Implementation Plan, Statement of Intent. That'll be filed with the CPUC. Maybe a few other things I just would add as well. Had a very, very good meeting with Assemblyman Rivas, newly elected JR and I participated in that, and I really think we're going to have an advocate there. We spent a good hour and reviewed kind of his policy priorities, and very optimistic about working with him. And really just want to state that I think the policy board's thrilled with how well we've done in 2018, and really, really look forward to 2019. So that's all.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Great. Any member of the public wishing to address the board on this item? Thank you.
I might add one other thing.
Go for it. Go for it.
This Saturday, very thrilled to be working with the Salinas Valley cities. We're promoting widely a sustainability fair and EV test drive. There is a lot of partners on the flyer. There's some in the back. Should be really, really awesome. Proud to be working with Monterey Bay Community Power.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you for being here. Great. Moving along to the CEO's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things to report on. First, the 2019 rates. And PCIA, we don't have any news to report. As you probably know, our revenue relies heavily on PG&E's revenue plus the determination what the power charge indifference adjustment would be. Initially, they were supposed to have that done in November for implementation in January 1st. They were delayed, and they pushed it they pushed the implementation to March 1st, and they were going to reveal the numbers in January 11th. That again got pushed one more time, and we are likely to know what the rates and what the PCIA will look like at the end of January, at which time we will report on it and also finalize our rates for implementation comes March 1st. The second item to report on is what's going on with PG&E, and we're going to be talking about that in closed session. But I have been passing the information that you all will know, the last of which is that PG&E intends, they already served the notice that they intend to file for bankruptcy at the end of the month. Obviously, to deal with the issues related to all the fire liability that they are facing. When it comes to legislative agenda, we are, California CCA Association is working on a bill for next year to try to further some of the issues that we've been wanting and dealing with, transparency issues with investor-owned utilities, and a number of other things that will secure our place in the state as the provider of generation for our communities. Obviously, that is a lot of work to be had, and we are talking to our legislators and doing our best to try to get a bill authored on our behalf. One of the more exciting things that we're working on is working with offshore wind, Trident. They are planning on doing something off Morro Bay, and they have to get a lease on the area where they're going to place the offshore wind, and we are helping them achieving that. I think this is going to be great. I think between offshore wind and solar plus storage, this is pretty much they're going to be the choice of resources in the future in order to move us into 100% renewable resources. The offshore wind that we're looking at is not likely to come in online until the year 2026, 2027. But we are beginning to work with them now to see that eventually would happen. Finally, I think that's pretty much what I had in mind. We would actually trying to address the board selection committee. We're having a tough time just making sure that we have all the cities appointed their board members. We had a chat to the executive committee about it yesterday and reached the conclusion that we will leave the JPA as is. We will work on the rules and regs to try to simplify things a little bit for the cities to make the selection for the reps and alternates. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
So, Tom, is it likely that a bill will be introduced on behalf of the CCAs to take care of some of the issues that we've experienced over the last year?
Yes.
Do we have a sponsor? Is it going to be in the Senate or?
we're working, it's likely to be one of the senators, and we're working with a number of them to try to find the lead senator. There are a number of them that will be sponsoring, but we're just looking for the lead at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Sure.
I just wanted to report I had an opportunity to attend an informational meeting regarding the offshore wind development off of Morro Bay and San Simeon, hosted by the Bureau of the Office of Energy Management and their counterparts from the California Ocean Protection Council. There's probably over 100 people in the room. They laid out a presentation of the timeline and their selection process, the request for information right now leading towards selection of a preferred vendor and contractor. A lot of enthusiasm in the room, and so it was overall a very positive, and it looks like Supervisor Bruce Gibson from the San Luis Obispo is taking a personal interest in leadership in the matter as well.
Thank you. Any other member of the board? Any member of the public wishing to address the board on this item? Hearing none? Great, thank you. I'd like to bring it back to the board. No action needed. Moving forward to information items. Board member reports and comments. Anybody on the board?
I just want to thank the staff. JR is going to do a presentation before our council on the 22nd of January. So we look forward to that. There's a lot of good information about 2018, and I'd encourage my colleagues on this board to make sure you get a presentation before your council, because I think it's really good information, particularly given the short time frame of 1 year, and the compliments are astounding, actually. I think a lot of people thought we would never get this far, but kudos to everybody, particularly the staff and Tom, and we look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. Anybody, any other board member? Great. Moving forward, now the board will be moving into closed session. We'll move into the main conference room adjacent to the chambers. The meeting will be closed to the public. At the conclusion of the closed session, the board will reconvene in open session, report on any actions taken for which a report is required by law. The public may comment on closed session items prior to the board's recess to closed session. So, is there any member of the public wishing to address the board on the item before closed session? Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for recess to closed session. Thank you. All right, I'd like to reconvene the board into open session. Okay, now that we're back in open session, thank you. I'd like to ask General Counsel to report out on closed session.
Thank you, Chair. In closed session, the board gave direction to respond to any potential filing by PG&E in bankruptcy and to take necessary steps to protect the interest of the Monterey Bay Community Power Authority.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I don't know if that's public comment, do it?
You can.
Okay. All right, so it's an itemized agenda. Is there a member of the public wishing to address the board on this? The reported action? Great, hearing none. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and we're adjourned.
Good meeting.